What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning. So come by and say hello. All right, guys, I want to talk about the upcoming potential Rift Watchers for DEC proposal. Again, it was teased like 2 weeks ago. We have not heard anything about it since. So I'm hopeful that it still comes around because it seems like people are just waiting for it, although there have been some Rift Watcher sales here and there. But with DEC back down at, like 18% below its peg, it would represent a significant discount for those who wanted to jump in and could potentially, one, lock up and or burn a lot of DEC, as well as spark sales just for people that want to take advantage of the discount for DEC. And I think that would help us get back to peg quickly, as well as clear out a significant amount of supply, because keep in mind, there's almost 2 million left. And if they're going to be going for 5,000 DEC each, that'd be 10 billion DEC, of which, of course, we have 5.1 billion sitting on Hive Engine right now. Again, we don't know how much is necessarily on other chains, but we'll leave that, for a separate video or separate topic. Now, one of the things that people don't like about this proposal is the fact that if the DAO gets DEC instead of SPS, there is less potential upside in the future. And there's no denying that, right? Like, obviously DEC has limited upside in the fact that it'll go back up to its peg, and it probably won't go above its peg, because at that point it'll be more profitable for bots or people who want to arbitrage to burn SPS and then sell it back down to peg. But what we do know is that at the very least, it could provide some stability, right? If we know that there's always going to be ongoing use cases for DEC. So one of the ways in which I think we can get around this, and of course, we'd have to get the team to play ball, but I believe that the team is going to play ball, and they are going to, they would be interested in doing something like this, simply because they're the only ones that can. And what I'm talking about is doing an OTC, or over-the-counter trade, for DEC to swap essentially SPS that the team has or buys off the market and puts into the DAO. So what am I getting at here? Right now, the team goes out and buys DEC off the market because they have market transactions where the front end is credits and the back end they have to pay out in DEC. And they're the only ones really in the entire ecosystem that can hold DEC, or that have a use case for DEC without actually needing to sell it. So because of that, because of the fact that they facilitate these trades, right, the credits on the inbound and then DEC on the outbound, they can hold DEC without, and just essentially be kind of like a market middleman for that, paying out on the back end. So in the future, let's say DEC supply dries up significantly and the team needs to go out and buy DEC off the market in order to continue facilitating trades. Well, there's a couple of options here. They could go out and buy DEC, because at that point it would be they could go out and buy DEC, but let's say DEC is at peg. If they buy significant amounts, then all of a sudden they're pushing the price up, and it might be actually easier for them to go out and buy SPS, at which point, and then burn that for DEC. But if there's a significant amount of DEC sitting in the DAO, I think it would be in everybody's best interest to get that back into circulation and have it be burned for any variety of things, right? Land, guild, whatever other things in the future, maybe something within tower defense. So let's say we get to a point, let's say this whole Rift Watcher for DEC thing happens, and we lock up roughly 10 billion DEC in the DAO over time. Well, once we get DEC back to peg or close to peg, I think the best way forward, in order to ensure that there's no crazy market movements, there's no front running of the market, essentially what we can do is submit proposals. And again, this would have to be something that the team signs off on, but essentially submit proposals for the team to facilitate an OTC trade. So for example, let's say there's 10, we'll just say the team wants to buy 1 billion DEC from the, 1 billion DEC. It's a lot, but let's just say 1 billion DEC, which is like $1 million US. So 1 billion DEC from the DAO. And let's say the Dow is sitting on a bunch, but they want to buy 1 billion DEC to put into their coffers to pay out on that back end. Well, what they would do is they would buy the equivalent SPS, but instead of burning that SPS immediately for DEC, which is what they'll probably eventually do in the future, they would do an OTC trade. So if they buy SPS, right, and let's just say SPS is at 0.024 cents right now, you would buy, or the team would buy, the equivalent amount of SPS at that price point, right? Or let's say they're holding it already. That would probably be better so that there's no like crazy market movements or front running or whatever. But let's say the team is holding X amount already. They could choose to then essentially swap however much SPS is required to cover that 10 or 1 billion DEC. And hopefully DEC will be very close to peg at that point. So, it will be around that $1 million mark. Again, these are just rough numbers, right? I'm just throwing them out there. But at that point, the team could then decide, okay, here's what we're going to do. The proposal comes in, says we're proposing that the team swaps such and such, or this amount of SPS for this amount of DEC at these prices, right? We all sign off on it. The only thing is that it's going to take 2 weeks, but if we do it with that intent, and then the team would have to set that SPS aside, right? And this is the important thing. They would have to set that SPS aside because then no matter what happens, right, from the moment that proposal goes live, there would have to be some kind of like escrow situation because let's say the price of SPS goes up or the price of SPS goes down. What we're trying to do is essentially just make sure that we lock in those amounts. And then if the proposal gets approved, it goes through at those amounts, no matter what. If the proposal does not go through, then nothing matters. There's no harm done, right? The amounts will change and we'll have to put in another proposal. And I'm assuming these would probably be proposals that the team will put forth themselves because they'll know how much SPS they are trying to, how much SPS they have or how much DEC that they need in order to facilitate these trades. But I do see a path forward where locking a ton of DEC up in the Dow in the short to medium term wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Obviously, we want to be able to work through that over time, and we want the DEC, and we want that DEC to benefit the Dow in some way, right? That value to benefit the Dow. But what we could do is just facilitate or vote, upvote or approve these OTC trades in the future. Now, there could be other entities that come in that are willing to do some kind of OTC trade for DEC, but once again, what makes the Splinterlands company unique is the fact that they settle a lot of these market transactions with DEC on the back end, which I think is really important. Anybody else coming in, if they're going to swap a bunch of SPS for a bunch of DEC, unless they're planning to burn that DEC, right? Maybe you have some major whale that comes in and is just like, I bought an entire region of land, or I bought all this land and I just want to level it up when land phase 1.5 or phase 2 comes out. Unless they're planning to burn it, it doesn't really make sense because at some point they're going to end up dumping it on the market, right? So for me, the only entity that makes sense would be the team, which is why I think these OTC deals would essentially help cover that in the short to medium and maybe even long term. Of course, we wouldn't want DEC in there forever, but at the same time, I'm actually not that opposed to having some DEC in there just because there may be opportunities, right? It is supposed to be a stable coin, and there could be some opportunities to buy the dip in the future if we wanted to have some kind of stable coin value or stable coin, what's that called? Stable coin influence or stable coin exposure is the word I'm looking for within the Dow holdings. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. I know it's a little bit more technical, but I'm just thinking through what some of the negative responses would be to a Rift Watchers for DEC proposal where the people against it only want only want SPS in the Dow. But ultimately, we'll see what comes through. I don't know if it's going to be something that burns the DEC or something that stores the DEC in the Dow. But obviously, if it stores the DEC in the Dow, I think there is definitely a way forward in which we can make sure that no massive dumping happens on the market, no front running of the market either, and we can just have these nice OTC trades with the team. But that's all I have. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll catch you all in the next video and see you around the game. Take care.